Manifestation is a removal process. It has nothing to do with creating all these new visions of what it is you desire, and it has everything to do with self reflecting, doing enough shadow work to identify what you would need to believe in order to be having the experience that you're having. So, when we come into this reality, before we come, we decide on an ego or a self that we want to be. We decide on a set of ingredients that we want to mix together to create an experience. We decide on the parents that we want to have certain influences on us. It's basically like choosing a character in a video game. And we come into this world with that ego, with this avatar, which includes the ego. And we have these experiences, we receive these programs, and then we spend our entire life yearning to remember who we really are, which is infinite possibilities. We come from source. And so when we're in this life and we start to discover that we can change the reality that we're experiencing, we often just try to pile on top of that ego and pile on top of those experiences and bulldoze our way to our desired reality in spite of our programming. But what really needs to happen is we need to actually look at the program to edit it. Similar to the way that you would look at a computer program, you would have to look at the code, see what the code is doing before you can change the code. If you were to just decide to look at the computer code and add something on top of it, you wouldn't stop the other functions from taking place, the other if-thens. You would first need to remove the code for the things that you don't want, and then also make sure that the new code that you're trying to incorporate works well with the other code. Otherwise, you're going to have a program that's running wonky, that's creating results that you don't want. And it's similar when it comes to us creating our new reality. We can't just expect to pile our dreams on top of this ego, on top of these limiting beliefs, and have lasting results. We're always going to get wonky results if we don't examine the existing code before adding the new code. And typically, when we remove code, we can correct a lot of the errors that are there automatically without even adding new code, because we may have some code in there that's causing us to have a certain experience. And once we're no longer having that experience, it allows the rest of the program to run the way that we desire. So manifestation is the process of examining the code first to understand how it's working. Then we think of the new code that would be necessary for the program to run as we would like. So what is a real life example of this? If I want to experience a healthy and loving relationship, then I may say, well, let me just make this list of all the qualities that my partner has to have, right? And let's say I get to making this list and putting all these things on it, but I have these conflicting beliefs. I have this source code running that, makes me do things that make me an undesirable partner, or I have beliefs about, the gender I'm interested in that don't align with what it is that I say I want. So if I think all men lie, all men cheat, all men whatever, then even if I make this list, it'll make it almost impossible for my reticular activating system to identify that partner that I say I want, because I've got this code over here that conflicts with this code I'm trying to install as I list out the characteristics that I want in a partner. And so I may get frustrated with this manifestation technique because I see all the people in the videos saying it worked for them, but it doesn't work for me. Instead, what I've got to do is change that original code that's telling me that all men are XYZ. Does that mean that I have to become completely naive and just disregard whatever inputs cause me to obtain this belief? No. In this case, I could just make minor adjustments. I could say a lot of men XYZ, but there are always exceptions. And the person that I'm looking for will also be looking for me, because we're both exceptions to the rule. Whatever. That was just something off the top of my head. So I don't necessarily have to delete all the code. I just have to make a slight adjustment in perception. And instead of believing that all men XYZ, I can tell myself that a lot of men do. So that way I don't cause a malfunction in the code. Because sometimes we can be so bold with our new belief that we cause cognitive dissonance within ourselves. We lose that trust relationship that we have with ourselves because we are making bold statements but not acknowledging the belief that was there. And sometimes those beliefs that are there are protective. Whatever beliefs are there were either put there by us or people who were doing their best to influence us in a way that would keep us safe in most cases. I'm not saying that's always the case. So we kind of want to bulldoze over that instead of acknowledging it, and it causes these glitches, it causes malfunctions, it causes you to have some success but not total success. And so we kind of have to understand what beliefs are. They're literally the glue that holds our ego together so that we can have this experience in the 4D. And the ego and those beliefs will fight for their lives because literally, if we experience ego death here and we're not prepared for that, we don't understand who we are fully, it can have some really negative effects. So all the beliefs that we put in place, especially the deeply held beliefs that we've pushed down into the subconscious, and it's hard for us to even make them conscious, those beliefs will fight for their lives because their life or the life of the ego depends on it. And the ego is a necessary part of our experience here in the 4D. Even after we remember who we are, we remember that we exist on multiple dimensions, we remember that we chose this particular avatar, but only for this particular experience, the ego is still necessary for us to interact with this reality. And so it's very normal and natural for the beliefs that are holding together this reality, this persona, this avatar, to fight for their survival. And once we understand that that's what they're doing, we can disarm them. We can approach them lovingly and say, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for helping me calm this anxiety. Thank you for helping lift me out of this depression. Thank you for keeping me safe when I was a child. You know, whatever the purpose that belief was serving, it was serving us. And if we go to it with respect and we say, hey, thank you, but I know who I am, and I know that I can replace you with a belief that serves me better, and I'll still be okay. And so we can acknowledge that belief and then we can make changes to it. But if we try to bulldoze over it, that's a form of really just not honoring important parts of who we are. That ego is an important part of who we are. It literally allows us to play this game called life. And it is a game, even though it doesn't always feel like a game. It is a game that we set up and entered into that feels very real, feels very serious. And the object of the game is to elevate the soul, is to achieve the soul's purpose of understanding itself and what it would do in certain situations. So the process of examining the code, removing the code that's not working for you and replacing it with more effective code, or just removing it so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of the code, is the key to manifesting. And really, the work that we do to examine beliefs, bring them up into the conscious mind, decide whether or not they serve us, and then get rid of them if they don't. If we only did that work and we never made a list, we never scripted, we never did any of the other exercises, that alone would free us up to experience life in a more magical way, in a more free way. So that work makes it so much easier to create the new thing. For example, I've gotten to a place now where I've done so much shadow work. I'm so aware of so many of my beliefs that I can simply have a new thought and things instantly appear in my reality because there's nothing blocking it. Like there's almost my code has gotten so much shorter. So let's say I had pages and pages and pages and pages of code. And throughout my life, I've just gone in and examined it, deleted this piece. Oh, that doesn't serve me. Deleted this piece. That doesn't serve me. I've ended up with this much shorter list of code. And now there's so much space. Like, first of all, I can see my whole self. It's not so complicated. And then I can simply think of the new code and insert it quickly, and it appears in my life faster. So the less programming we operate in, the better. The way that we know that we are operating with less programming is by how much we can stay in the present. So if we remember who we truly are, that we have access to the all, that we have access to infinite abundance, infinite love, then when we remove that code that's confusing everything, we give ourselves quicker access to that bigger part of ourselves. So we can see our shorter code list, and we can also see that we're bigger than the code, even though the code is what we need to function here in this reality. And so that means we can just be in the moment and trust that whatever we need in the moment is going to show up exactly when we need it. And so when you walk around with that level of trust, like at this point in my life, I'm able to walk with dual consciousness, meaning I'm able to be very aware of and in touch with my ego self, my avatar, and at the same time, remember who I am fully, the God part of me. And when we can do that and have that level of trust, then things do come instantly. I always joke with people and tell them that they can call me Dory, the fish from Finding Nemo, who could never remember anything. And I think part of that has to do with spiritual evolution and my ability to access the right information at the right time. So some things that are filed away really in my subconscious mind, your subconscious mind is your connection to the God self. Your subconscious mind is where all that data goes. They say that, or neuroscientists say that we take in 11 million bits of data. We call it bits, but really there's no way to quantify, but just little pieces of information that our senses take in. We only process about 5 of those, not 5%, about 5 of those bits of information at one time. The rest of that is stored in the subconscious, right? And when you're connected to the God self, you are also very connected to that subconscious mind, that connection to the all. And you can easily access what's in there right as it's needed because there is infinite wisdom in the God self. So it knows exactly what to deliver to you at that moment in time. And so the more you can be in the present moment, the less attachment you have to things that are not a part of your present moment experience, the easier it is for you to manifest because you're more connected to your God self. And as someone who grew up, naturally I'm very type A. I like to plan. I still like to plan. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I just can't hold it all in here because I'm leaving space to retrieve what I need when I need it. It took a long time for me to get to this place. This is not my natural temperament. What I experience now, showing up fully present in myself, fully present in the moment, fully acknowledging my 5 senses and the fact that I am safe, that I am loved, that I am God, took a long time. It took a lot of me having all that extra source code, trying to control everything before I was able to rest in that. And it's funny, speaking of being able to just pull things when they need to come, I experience to this day, people who have known me well and known me for a long time, judge me as this type A person, right? This very controlling person. I do like to have things in order, but I'm a lot less controlling than I used to be. Now, even though I like to try to keep order, even though I enjoy organization and making lists and all that type of stuff, I will always leave room for the subconscious mind to bring me what I need in the moment because I've understood through the chaos that came, despite all of my planning, that the ego can't hold it all together. This conscious mind, same thing as the ego, can't possibly process everything there is to process, can't possibly see beyond this present moment, even the things that we view as our past, things that we remember. We're remembering them. A member is putting things together. We're re-putting it together every time we access it. So the ego is only even capable of processing what's happening in the present moment. So the only part of you that is able to create is the subconscious part. And what happens is when we lose awareness of that subconscious part of ourselves, we're creating out of control. We're allowing the ego to run the show. So the ego may have thrown a bunch of stuff into the subconscious mind that says you can't have this, you can have that, this is how you're supposed to act, this is what's expected of you, etc., etc. And we don't even realize that we're creating from that space. But the truth is, we can't create it all. It's what we give instructions to our God self to do. That is what we get, shown to us in our reality. So that's another interesting concept. The subconscious mind, the God self, the all, is serving us. It's counting on us to give the instructions for the experience, because the all is complete and incapable of seeing itself. It can only see itself through us, through all these little egos that have split up to have this experience on earth. And so it just responds to us however we want it to. If we say, I'm not enough, we're not enough. If we say, I can't have, then we can't have. If we say we can have, then we can have. It's just allowing us to use these avatars that we come up with to have these experiences that the one, the all, could not have otherwise. And so there's no wrong or right way. It just responds to the commands that we give it. And part of the fun is that we forget that we're one with the all, because then it becomes an adventure, right? If we remembered all of who we are all the time, if we were always in the God self, then there would be no variation in experience. We would know everything all the time. But when we limit ourselves with this ego, then we allow ourselves to have these unique experiences, to make these choices with only part of the information. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. We sometimes will downplay or see this 3D, 4D experience as inferior, and the God self experience as the goal. But the God self intentionally came down through this, created this whole experience in order to better itself, or in order to examine itself, because there is no better. So it's this delicate balance that we have between honoring this ego self and this soul experience and the ability to examine this part of the all, and this desire to return to our natural state, which is the God self. And I think the most fun that you can have in this experience, at least in my opinion, this was my choice for my journey, is to go back and forth between the two. To be able to hold both at the same time is the ultimate experience, because not only do I get to experience all the uniqueness of this self, but I get to access, when I need it in each present moment, just what I need to create the experience that I desire. And sometimes if you remove enough of that code, if you have a short enough program, just enough to hold this together, to so that you don't go insane, so that you're not shape-shifting and experiencing time lapses and all of that stuff. You have just enough. Like I said, you can create instantly. You are not even aware of the desire, because the way that you communicate with that part of yourself is through feeling. So if I just have a moment where I say, oh, wouldn't it be nice? And I can't even articulate, what it is that I'm saying would be nice. It's just a feeling that comes over me. Next thing I know, the experience shows up in a way that I could not have imagined, because the part of me that has access to the all has delivered it to me based on the language of feeling. And that's why I have a whole book on manifestation tools. I'm not saying manifestation tools don't work. They do work. But if you try to, like I said, bulldoze the existing code, it could take years. The more you acknowledge the code that's there, the more you address the limiting beliefs, the easier it is to bring things in. And you don't have to know what you're bringing in, but you can trust that whatever it is will meet that desire that you have. So if we really break things down, the only reason most of us do anything is because we believe it will bring us some desired outcome, some desired state, right? So we go to the gym because we believe we'll feel good and we'll be in shape, right? There's this end goal. Or we work because we believe it will make us financially stable. So we're always looking for this outcome. And we get programmed to believe that there's only one way to get to that particular outcome. The magic of all of this is if you can switch that around and decide to get into the state, the part of you that has access to all of time, all possibilities, can bring you to that end state in ways that you couldn't even imagine. But it can only do that if you let go of this need that the ego has to hold on to ideas about the past and ideas about the future. You should be working not to completely detach from reality, but to let go enough. Just hold on to the things that keep you sane. Like I am a Black woman. I would lose my mind if I thought I had 20 different identities, and we actually see examples of that. But just let go of anything that's not necessary to keep you grounded and to keep you sane. And that's when everything can come in. You no longer have these limitations or these beliefs about how things have to come about. And that's why they come so fast. So next time you think about manifesting, and this seems like it will slow you down, right? Doing all this shadow work, asking yourself, what would I need to believe in order for this situation to be, in my reality? Sometimes it seems like you're pausing to do shadow work, but you go slow to go fast, right? If you skip the shadow work and you just try to bulldoze your way to your desires through repetition, through law of assumption, all of those things can work, like I said. And it seems like they would work fast. And for some people, they do, just because in certain circumstances, they may not have as many limiting beliefs stopping them from letting in what it is that they want. But if you just take a little time to examine your code, examine the beliefs that your ego is holding on to, and remove them. And you remove them by just acknowledging the possibility that they don't necessarily have to be true. That's all you have to do is question them. And say, you don't have to completely change them. But if you take the little time it takes to do that, then the speed at which your manifestations come in will be so freaking fast. I had an experience just this morning, and this is a small thing, but it's a good example. I was walking, I try to do a walk every morning, and sometimes the sprinklers early in the morning will be on certain parts of the walk. And I've been drenched before by these sprinklers, so I dread them. And on some parts of the path, I won't be able to turn back the other way easily. So I'm walking down the path, and I was at that point where I couldn't just turn around and go the other way, and the sprinklers came on. And I just imagined what it would be like to get through there completely dry, right? And so I'm walking. I'm imagining what it would be like to be completely dry, but just in case, I'm taking a plastic bag out of my little fanny pack so that I could cover my head. As soon as I stepped to the sprinklers, they just shut down. And I was able to walk through completely dry because I didn't hold on to any beliefs about how that was supposed to go. I was preparing myself for any possibility, including having the water fall on my head, but I wasn't attached to any particular outcome. I allowed myself to feel the feeling of what it would feel like to get the outcome that I desired, but I was not attached to any outcome. So detaching from how you think things are supposed to be and allowing yourself to just feel the feeling of what it is you truly desire, top tier manifesting. Sometimes you forget that you manifested. Like sometimes weeks and months will go by and I'll look back and see how everything just fell into place, you know? And sometimes the little things that fall into place seem so innocuous that we don't realize that they're building up to our manifestation. So taking things in stride, staying in the present moment, you know, my mantra is everything is happening for me. Even when it comes to the smallest things, from the smallest to the biggest things, everything is happening for me. It's incredible how much that detachment and that trust that the part of you that is connected to source is working on bringing you that end result. You just get to certain destinations in ways you could never have imagined, only using the ego mind, the conscious mind. So consider removing instead of doing all these exercises. Like I said, I have a book out on manifestation tools. And if that's the way you choose to go, then go check that book out. Those things do work. For many years, I did affirmations to change my belief system, but it's much faster to just remove limiting beliefs and then open yourself up to all of what the part of you that's connected to God can bring you.